Alright, second video here. I am going to show you how to fill in a unit circle the easy way, or the Zee-zee way. This is the step one really of filling out the unit circle. We'll have step two in the third video. So first video, changing degrees to radians, that should have been already something that you can do. This video is about how to fill in the degrees and radians of a unit circle the easy way. Okay, so I'm going to start with a circle as big as I can get it, where I have a little bit of room here on my kid's board. And then I'm going to split it into quarters, and these should be easy. We have 90 degrees. Start with degrees. We have 180 degrees. We have 270 degrees. Can you see that? Sort of. Let's back it up here. Good enough. Okay, and over here we have 0 degrees, also known as 360 degrees. Those are equivalent. And we're going to start with 45 degrees. So in the last video, we found out that 45 degrees converted to radians. 45 degrees converted to radians is, say it out loud. Yes, you're right, pi over 4. Good job. Okay, now this is how I like to do this. Let me get the other 45s here. So understand that I just split this circle into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 45-degree pieces of pi, right? This is 45 degrees, this is 45 degrees, 45, 45, 45, 45, 45, 45. That's 360 degrees. We're going around the circle counterclockwise, so we're in positive angles. If we went the other way, that would be negative angles. So here we go. So this right here is 1 pi over 4. This is the first pi over 4. This is important. This is the second pi over 4. Check this out. This is 2 pi over 4. It's the second pi over 4. Now if we reduce this, 2 over 1 times pi over 4 would equal pi over 2. Okay? So we got 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, which reduces to pi over 2. This one would be the third pi over 4, so that's 3 pi over 4. The third pi over 4. Does that reduce? No, Mr. Z, that doesn't reduce. Oh, okay. So that's 3 pi over 4. This is the fourth one. That's 4 pi over 4. Now 4 pi over 4 reduces, so that is just pi. I got too much grease on my thing here. So 4 pi over 4, I guess I'll write it up here. 4 pi over 4, that's pi. That's the same as 180 degrees. What is this one? We're at 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4. That doesn't reduce. 6 pi over 4. Well, 6 pi over 4 does reduce. That equals 3 pi over 2. It should always be the reduced version. 6 pi over 4, 7 pi over 4. 7 pi over 4 doesn't reduce. And we saw that in the last video where I did the math for 315 degrees, 7 pi over 4. This would be 8 pi over 4. That reduces to 2 pi. Here we take a pause, not really long term, but just to say hello. And that makes sense, I hope. That's pretty cool. I forgot to put the degrees in for these, but that's 90. This is 135. That's 180. 180 plus 45, that's 225. This is 270, another 45. Another 45 puts us at 315. And those are all your equivalents. Okay. Now we're going to switch into 30 degrees. So I'm going to do the first 30-degree angle right here. So 30 would be right here somewhere. So this is 30 degrees. Maybe that red kind of sucks. I don't know. I'm going to switch to green. Maybe that'll be better. So here's 30 degrees. I don't know if that's good. So this is 30 degrees. It's smaller than 45 and it's right there. So if we did the math conversion on radians of 30 degrees, I'm going to do that up here because I didn't do it last time. 30 over 1 times pi over 180, right? That's ugly. I'm going to change. These are like these old markers I find in the house. I thought oh, this might be a good one. Let's try this one. So 30 degrees over 1 times pi over 180. Well, that reduces 1/6 pi over 6. So the first 30 degrees, right here, this 30 is pi over 6. Okay? That's 1 pi over 6. That's the first pi over 6. I don't really like the purple one. 1 pi over 6. Okay, 60 degrees right here. That's good. 60 degrees would be 2 pi over 6. Now 2 pi over 6 reduces to pi over 3. So 1 pi over 6, jump to the next one, which is 60 degrees. That's 2 pi over 6, pi over 3. The next one would be 3 pi over 6. That would be 90. We've already got it, but just to see it happen here, 3 pi over 6, that reduces to pi over 2. Good. The next one, 4 pi over 6. 4 pi over 6, does that reduce? Yes, Mr. Z. Oh, it reduces to 2 pi over 3. That would be 120 degrees. Okay. Now we're at the next one, which is 30 degrees off. What's 30 degrees from 120? That would be 150 degrees. 150 degrees would be, we did 4 pi over 6. This would be 5 pi over 6. Okay? The next one would be 180 degrees. 150 plus 30 is 180. That would be 6 pi over 6. 6 pi over 6 equals pi, right? 6 pi over 6. We already got that. That's pi. The next one, 210 degrees. That would be 7 pi over 6. That doesn't reduce. This is 8 pi over 6. This one, 8 pi over 6. 8 pi over 6 does reduce. Can you see that? Yeah. 8 pi over 6, that's 4 pi over 3. 4 pi over 3. Okay. Now we're at 9 pi over 6. We've already got it because it's 2. I didn't put the degrees here. So this one was 210 degrees. This one is 30 more. That's 240 degrees. Okay. This one is 270 degrees. We already have it. It's 9 pi over 6, but we already have it. Okay. It's 3 pi over 2. Take another 30 degrees. We're at 300 degrees. I know I'm not drawing this perfectly, but fine. 300 degrees. Now we're at 10 pi over 6, right? That reduces to 5 pi over 3. This is 5 pi over 3. This would be 11 pi over 6. Whoops. 11 pi over 6. 330 degrees. 11 pi over 6. And 11 pi over 6 doesn't reduce. 12 pi over 6. Well, guess what that is? 360 degrees. 12 pi over 6. 2 pi. We already have it. Now that is the Zee-zee way of doing the unit circle. Now you tell me that wasn't amazingly cool. That is the way to do a unit circle. Now there's a lot more to a unit circle. Whoops. I don't know, my videoing is kind of lame, but there's a lot more to a unit circle that we're going to get in the next section that I'm going to teach you. It has to do with 30, 60, 90, and 45, 45, 90 triangles, so that we're starting to talk about the positions of the coordinates along the circle. And that will be the next video. Isn't this fun, guys?